Hey Dragon Slayers! So today's video is all about how to saute and why I love doing it. So sauteing is pretty much identical to pan searing, except it involves cooking smaller pieces of food. Use this technique for bite-sized pieces of meat or ground proteins, ground beef, lamb, chicken, turkey, or pork. This technique might involve some prep work, cutting up meat, but it also allows you to throw in chopped up flavored vegetables, and it adds a lot of flavor. So he gives some recommendations of alliums such as onions, leeks, shallots, and garlic are fantastic for using this technique. So I consider sauteing to be cooking 101. If you can't saute, you can't cook. There's no one in the world, it doesn't matter what culture, what country, what race, nationality, ethnicity, everyone in the world sautés. Everyone, right? I would think it's a ubiquitous skill among cooks universally throughout all of history. We have always sauteed. And it's kind of funny to me, but I understand that Ted Naiman does a good job of writing his book from the perspective of a person that maybe has no experience, right? So if you have no cooking experience at all, it seems kind of silly to teach someone how to saute. I grew up in a household where my mom was an excellent cook, so was my dad. I've been cooking and around food since I was 3 years old, so a lot of this stuff just comes naturally for me. But I have to remember that that is not the case for everyone. So I want to try to make it as easy to understand and as accessible to as many people as possible. So generally, sauteing is just the idea of you're just going to dice up things that are into fine pieces, essentially, and throw it into the skillet. What I've learned over the years from cooking is that the higher the heat, the bigger the chance of messing up. So if you're an inexperienced cook, if you've never cooked before, if you're feeling really uneasy in the kitchen, turn the heat down, right? So most electric stoves, whether they're flat top or coiled, they will have a dial that you can adjust. Usually it goes from like 1 through 9 and then high. Um, you don't want to go past 5, right? Same thing with a gas stove. It doesn't always have numbers, but it usually starts from the highest setting, goes all the way down to the lowest. Start at about midway. That's my recommendation for all types of cooking, except for searing. You might need to go a little hotter, but all cooking that you're doing on top of a stove, whether it's electric or gas, doesn't matter, don't go past the midpoint. The midpoint is a good place to start, and you can cook almost anything at the midpoint or lower within a reasonable amount of time. As you get more confident, crank the heat up, right? So you can get into different cooking styles, different cooking gear. You'll want to adjust the temperature more from there. The things that I personally love sauteing are onions and bell peppers and mushrooms. Love it, love it, love it. It adds so much flavor. So you want to start off by sauteing those things first, right? So dice them up. They don't have to be super fine. You can do it kind of chunky, whatever size is reasonable for you to eat. And you just throw it into the skillet at one time. Put your oil in there first, your cooking oil, and let it heat up, get to a smoking point where it's smoking a little bit. You want to get a char, right? So you want to saute something until you start to see it turn dark brown. If it's black or there's a lot of black, you've gone too far, right? So you're just kind of cooking it and you want to toss it around a bit. Let it sit there for a few seconds and maybe stir some more. I can, in the future, maybe even do some live demonstrations with you guys to show you some basic techniques if you think that might be helpful for anyone who feels intimidated behind cooking. But sauteing is very, very easy. I am positive that anyone out there can master sauteing in a few tries, right? It's really the most basic form of cooking anything. So that's what I've got for you guys today. Don't forget that you can like and subscribe. You can support me in the description below at Patreon. And remember, guys, together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.